The restaurants you love, the food you crave, and the people that make it all happen. We tell their stories on the Paper Trails podcast with Albemarle Paper Supply.
What's going on, guys? How are you? We are back with the Paper Trails podcast. This is episode 8 of season 2. We are super pumped to be here with my guest, Javi, QC Javi. If you guys don't know him, don't follow him, go ahead and do it. But super pumped to have him on, and I will introduce him and let him tell you where we are, because this is going to be another fun episode, something different. We'll have a little bit of a short little jam session talking about Javi, his background, how we got into the scene, the food scene, as a photographer, as an influencer of sorts. You know, he's really big into the soccer scenes, done a lot of stuff with, you know, our Charlotte FC soccer team coming up next year. I think next year, right? 2022. So, first season that we will have is next year, and so excited. And then we're gonna be trying some food. Yeah. It's gonna be so much fun. So, Javi, why don't we start off? Where are we at? Give us some context, because we reached out to you. We had a good conversation, and we said, you know what? Let's do something fun, something different. You know, Nick, have you tried, you know, this authentic Mexican joint with tacos? And I mean, we have the works coming. And I said I have not been there, and so tell us where we're at.
So we're currently at Tacos El Nevado on Central Avenue, which is one of my favorite places in all of Charlotte. Okay. You know, super authentic. To me, they have the best tacos in Charlotte. They have handmade tortillas. And when you told me you've never been here before, I just knew this was the setting that I wanted to have.
Done.
So yeah, I'm super excited for you to try it.
Listen, I'm pumped. I'm excited. Before we get into the food, we'll do that here in a second. But Javi, give us a story, man. Give us, how did you end up where you're at? I mean, like, give us a little context, a little background, because the cool thing is that you've had some pretty cool opportunities. Mm-hmm. Being in Charlotte for the last 20 years or so, growing up here, you know, starting starting your photography gig professionally the last couple of years. You know, obviously, you know, getting involved in the community, the restaurant scene. I mean, like, you've kind of taken that angle. How did that even happen? Like, so give us context. Where are you from? Were you born here in Charlotte? You know, give us some context.
So I was born in Guadalajara, Mexico. It's one of the largest cities in Mexico, so I was blessed to be from there. Yeah. And I came when I was really young. I came when I was 10. Been here since. I've seen the transition from small town to the city that Charlotte is now. And I mean, it's been a long time coming for me to be in this position, because I feel like I've been working so hard in the last like 5 to 6 years trying to create content, be a YouTuber. I think a lot of us kind of wanted that. Once YouTube started, you know, we all wanted to record and create content and have fun. So initially I started recording a lot of like concerts, artists that would come from Latin America into Charlotte. I would always bring my camera and take photos, record, try to get photos with the artists and things like that. And I was always in the background, you know, so I liked it at that point because I was very shy and I didn't like to talk and I didn't like being in the spotlight. And after doing that for so long and being involved with the music scene, I was able to go to the Latin Grammys a few times. I was able to go to the Billboard Awards.
What was that like?
It was super fun. It was an awesome experience, but the one thing I didn't like was being in the background always.
So behind the camera instead of... Okay.
So 3 years ago, I made the decision to get in front of the camera and to lose that scary feeling, especially because I'm very conscious about my voice, and for the longest time I hated it, right? And now I feel like people enjoy it and they like listening to me, so I do it more now for my followers, my community that I've built, and they don't mind it. And it's a part of me now, so I've embraced it, and now I'm in front of the camera. So in the last 3 years, I've been super consistent with making sure that my content is personable, and I think that's what people really enjoy.
Now, have you always been in photography? Have you always been in videography? Like, have you always said, or is that something that slowly you just had to, you know, I don't know, like, like what influenced you to even go down that path to even get a camera to start? Like, you know what I mean? How did that start?
I feel like when I was little, coming into another country, my mom had a video camera, right?
Okay.
That was like one of those things that whenever you're in Mexico, you can't afford.
Yeah.
And then once you're here and she was working, she was like, okay. One of her first purchases was a video camera. And we would play around with my brother. A lot of the time, she wouldn't let us use it.
Yeah.
But whenever we could sneak it in, she would let us borrow it. And again, I always hated being on camera, but I would always grab it and record.
Sure.
So I feel like that's where my love started.
Okay.
And then with my love for music, because I'm also a musician.
Okay, I didn't know
going into concerts, I always wanted to capture it so I could have something to remember.
Okay.
And then it just kind of went on from there. I bought my first camera. I started taking photos. I started investing into it, just to better the quality.
How old were you when you started kind of investing into better quality, or
probably like 17.
Okay.
Probably like 17 when I actually bought my first camera.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so you've been for 12, 13 years now. You've been kind of having a camera, working on it, honing your craft. Which is something people should really think about. I feel like Javi in I don't know, man. Like maybe in our time, seeing like perfect pictures, seeing big followings. People want stuff kind of quick. But it takes time to get good at something. It's not like you picked up the camera 2 weeks ago and now you're taking amazing shots, right? Like it was work and trying and like, you know what, that wasn't good. That angle wasn't good. I need a different lens. How can I afford that lens? Working hard to get, you know what I mean? Like there was a lot, I'm sure, of that that we're kind of skipping over. But, I think it's important for everybody to understand that's the process of becoming maybe a content creator, an influencer, for anybody out there that wants to do that.
Right. For sure. I would say that, at the beginning, I thought it was super easy. So I would just snapshot photos in automatic.
Yeah.
Then I would look at them and half of it would be blurry and I wouldn't pay attention. Yeah. And now I can't afford to have a blurry photo. So I had to learn and I had to invest time, So people don't realize that it's not only snapping, clicking a button. Sometimes you actually got to think about the process to make sure that it comes out the way you would want it to be shown. 100%. And blurry is definitely never an option, unless you're into that type of stuff. But whenever you're creating photos in a concert where it's like super dark and stuff like that, you kind of do need to learn how to use a camera. And that's when I started learning. I would still be very basic with it because, now I take my time, I take lights, now I take consideration on how the food looks.
Everything.
I have to be way more conscious about it.
I love that.
And obviously there is kind of a style that I like to use for my food content.
Sure.
So I've developed that over the years, knowing how to shoot and how I want the food to look.
Which is something for people to consider. I mean, if you're just now getting into the scene or you want to have your own content, right? Have a style. Have a way that you want to do something, right? Think about that. Don't just be so, now you can be abstract and post whatever you want, but if you like to create a really big following, like, it's kind of like, for all of our content for the Paper Trails podcast and our Album Raw Paper pages, we have a certain voice. Like we have a certain way, kind of funny, witty, we're creating a personality off of a commodity product, a to-go box or a cup, you know what I mean? And so I like that. So the last 3 years, you've taken things more full-time, is that right?
Yeah, for sure. So with the establishment of my personal brand, which is QC Javi, that's when I went full force with what I wanted to do, right? So I remember there was an event 2 years ago called Level Up that happened at Suffolk Punch, where a lot of influencers met up, and that day I feel like marked a time where I needed to get serious with what I was doing.
Okay.
I went with a friend, we met up, we were hanging out with people that we already knew, but in my mind, I knew I wanted to step out of my comfort zone and reach out to other people. And I'll tell you, that day I was shaking hands, kissing babies, and people had no idea who I was.
Yeah.
After I had already collaborated with the Hornets, I had already done so much work with NASCAR, Live Nation, to where I couldn't understand why, right? And it clicked that it was because I was always behind the camera, right? And that's when I took a step forward. And for that whole month of April of 2018, people started reaching out to me, and people started wanting to find out who I was.
Yeah.
And I didn't say no to any event, any restaurant opening, or anything like that. So I also started creating a relationship with a lot of the local influencers here, and other photographers, and just people who wanted to work with me, right? And I took that in consideration, and I made it happen.
Yeah.
And then from that point, my personal page started growing a lot, and I kind of let the other ones die out a little bit.
Okay, so you had multiple pages.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I've had multiple platforms, you know, and it's funny because I think that's also part of the process.
Sure,
I've gone through so many other platforms that I created that it was like trial and error.
Sure.
And now I'm a lot happier because I can be myself.
Sure.
With QC Hobby.
Sure.
And I think a lot of the time as a creator, you have to put yourself in those positions, right?
100%.
Try everything that you know you like. See what is going to catch up, and then see which one is going to make you feel the happiest.
100%.
Which, at this point, I'm the happiest doing this, you know, because I can be myself. And it's a lot easier to be myself than to try to come up with other stuff that isn't related to me.
I mean, even that's the story of an entrepreneur. Like, real quick, you know, if you guys didn't know, IBM, we all know IBM as like a big consulting company now. IBM stands for International Business Machines. Okay? They started out making meat slicers. Then they got into time cards, clocking in.
Yeah.
Then they got into computers, computer parts, and now they're in consulting. So the reason I say that is that there's transitions in everything. Right? I mean, you know, what you do today may not be exactly what you may do 2-5 years from now. Right? And so I think trying that stuff is a great thing. And so, anyway, two of the things that you said that I really like. Number one, networking.
Yeah.
Right? Networking, meeting people, shaking hands. That's important. Relationships, meeting people in the community, meeting owners, restaurant owners, you know, that whole thing. I think that's super good. The other thing, what was it? You said something else that was good. Relationships. Anyway, it'll come to me. It'll come to me. So
like trial and error, trying different things.
Yeah. I don't know. It was something else that you said, but anyway. Now, question: taking something from a hobby into something full time, right? Because a hobby can be fun, can be like cool, can be playful. You can do it when it's convenient.
Yeah.
Doing something full time professionally, it takes another level of commitment and seriousness.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Talk about that for a quick second. You know, just talk about because, you know, I think a lot of people would love to do what you do full time, right? Have events, get asked to be on podcasts. I mean, this isn't your first podcast. People know you now in the community. But you can't just take things playfully and expect to get people in your DMs asking you, you know what I mean, to do different events. So talk about that a little bit, about, you know, the level of commitment and seriousness to go from a hobby and something cool that you do on the side to no, this is happening.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so is that a mental switch? Is that how you know, I mean, because it sounds like that event that you went to was the turning point.
I think there's a lot that has to do with your mental state of mind in a way, you know, because you have to make that choice. Before that event, you know, I would put out my content, but it wasn't getting the traction because the right eyes weren't seeing it. And that, I feel like, makes people doubt themselves, you know? When I flipped the switch on after that event, it was like, oh no, now I need people to see me. So I was putting out content every day, and I made that commitment to my community and to the goals that I wanted, the goals I wanted to meet. So then at that point, it was very clear for me. I have 30 days. What do I want to do with that? Okay, I'll go to all the events that I can. I'll shoot as much as I can. I'll make sure the quality is there, and then I'll start engaging not only with my community but with the people that I've met. Right? So that allowed them to reshare me, allowed them to see my, in a way, the quality of work I was putting out, and the reason why I had been in those positions before. you know. So that proved a point, and then that allowed people to see, oh, like he's actually kind of serious. So, it's definitely a decision making scenario. You know, you have to make that choice. I'm sure as an entrepreneur, there was a time where you wanted to create your business, and you're like, okay, we'll see how this goes, and you did a little bit of research, you started implementing things, but until you decided to take it serious, that's when good things started to happen. And luckily for me, it happened here in Charlotte because for the longest time, I wanted to go to another city. I wanted to be in LA, in New York, in Miami, and all these places where I felt that I could make something happen.
Yeah.
And you know, at that event, I was told not to do that because Charlotte was about to blow up and it was about to grow and there was going to be so many opportunities. And I was like, okay, I'll give it a few months. But at the end of the day, it all came from my hard work. Because I'm telling you, I've worked super, super hard. And it's been 7 years coming in, you know, the trial and error part of it. So it's not an easy thing, but it is definitely something that once you're dedicated to your goals, that's when you're going to be able to make a difference. And I think that's the most important part.
I love that. I love that commitment, hard work, focus. You know, making that mental click, decision making. These are all. And I thought about what you said before that I was gonna say. It's you said yes to everything.
Oh yeah.
I love that. I love that. I mean, it's kind of how I am now with clients. They're like, hey, I need something. Is there any way possible? Yes. You know, can you look? Yes. Can you find a different dish? We want an eco-friendly oval platter. Yes. I will figure out how to do something to help your business out, because if your business does well, my business does well. And you'll know that I'm going to come through and pull through, and then you'll depend on me, and then I'm your guy.
Correct.
Right? And so I like that. And so that's good little backstory. And just so you guys know, we're at the restaurant now. It's about to be lunchtime. The food's about to come out, and so forgive all the noises. It's all good. But let's transition into some soccer.
Okay.
So I'm assuming you grew up soccer fan.
Yeah.
Okay. So who's your team? Who do you pull for? Who do you like?
So I follow a lot of the Mexican League, and being from Guadalajara, they have one of the best team, right?
Okay.
I gotta say it's the best team. Las Chivas, which have won like 12 titles.
Yep.
Growing up, that's the one thing that I felt as a kid I brought in with me, right? Because I was still a fan. I got to play soccer here, growing up in middle school and high school, and then after that, I was just very interested in watching it and keeping up with it.
Yep.
But yeah, Las Chivas is my team, and now obviously I'm rooting hard for Charlotte FC.
How cool is it that we actually are getting an MLS? I mean, seeing where Charlotte came from, and now seeing that we've got football now. We've got lower level baseball with the Charlotte Knights. We have basketball with the Hornets, and now we have an MLS team. I don't know. To me, I even feel like the underground. I have a lot of friends that love soccer and love Charlotte FC, and I think the support that they're gonna have from the community is gonna be massive. I mean, you probably know it better than I do because you've already worked with them and you've done different things with them. What is it like having a team coming in next year? I mean, what are you seeing, being kind of in it a little bit, working with the team? Are they excited? Are they taking it serious? I mean, what? Give us a little context for people that may not follow soccer on how important it is and what's happening here in the next year.
I mean, I think it came at the best time, right? Because Charlotte is growing so much and it's so diverse. And at the end of the day, people not only in Latin America, but also people that are coming from Asia or from Europe, they love soccer.
100%.
Right? 100%. So soccer is like a world revolution on the sports scene.
Number one sport in the world.
Correct.
Number one.
Correct. So in order for us, or the way we got a team, just shows the significance of Charlotte overall and how much it's growing and the potential that it's going to have. So for us to have that franchise here of a major league soccer team. I think it's huge. Years before, they would bring international soccer games to Bank of America.
Yep.
And I feel like at the beginning they didn't realize the fandom that was going to be involved with those games, and I mean especially for the Mexico national team.
Sure.
Those were like sold out soccer games,
100%.
and tailgating and just everything that was happening was way more in a way that I feel the city could handle at the time. And they've made improvements, they've made arrangements to where now they are on top of it with everything that they're doing to the stadium and just the branding. And I mean, I take it super personal because before we knew we were going to get a team, I was raving about getting a team, right? So there was a campaign like way before when there were MLS talks and things like that like commissioners were coming into Charlotte and kind of scoping the area and things like that.
Yeah.
I'd have a banner. I'd have things saying MLS to Charlotte. For
So you were
2
out
or
front.
3 years before. Yeah, before any of that. So once the news started coming out, I knew I wanted to be like right
in
there.
the mix.
And that's kind of how I lended myself to these collaborations with them, because from the beginning and even the announcement event, I was there, right? Little QC Javi was there, and I was super involved just with all the news that were happening. And I was fortunate enough to, when they announced the color, the crest, and the actual name, that they reached out to me to let people know about it.
Nice.
So that was huge. But yeah, I mean, I love it. I'm super excited for 2022.
That's awesome. Now, I know we've signed a couple of players. I mean, what,
Yeah.
is there a coach yet or not yet?
There's not a coach yet.
Okay, so we're still
Not a
looking for a coach, still putting the squad together.
Yeah.
When does the season start? Next year? You know when next year?
It should be around March or April
Of next
yeah,
year?
The season actually just started for this year.
Okay,
So 2022 around this time.
gotcha. So we're about a year away,
Yeah.
finalizing the details, getting the rest of the squad together. I don't know, man. I like outside looking in, just being a fan, and I mean, and just like you said, so smart. I don't know who is it, if the MLS is involved in bringing these. I mean, I remember seeing Liverpool a couple of times come here to
Yeah.
Charlotte. I mean, I remember coming to the games because my family, my brothers are huge Arsenal fans, or Madrid fans, Juventus fans. I mean, so I mean, I played it. I don't follow it as much as they do, but I would come to all the games with them. But just the outside looking in, I'm like, you know what? It feels like an underswell of a lot of momentum and like excitement and energy for the team coming.
Mm-hmm.
I can't wait.
And another thing I would say before we move on
Yeah,
is
go ahead.
that I feel like so many people didn't feel represented with the other teams that are in Charlotte. Whether it was the Panthers or the Hornets.
Yeah.
Those are two different sports that people in other countries may not follow as much.
100%.
Now that we actually have a soccer team that we get to see from the ground up, man, I just feel that people are gonna just fall in love with the team. They're gonna rock super hard with them because soccer fans are very vested
100%.
into the team.
Crazy.
So
we are.
I don't think that's happened with any of the other teams,
No.
and that's gonna make a huge difference.
No, and the other thing that I love about sports, and especially soccer, it's like literally such a melting pot of every different background, every different person. I mean, Italians, Greeks, people from Germany, England, Honduras, Mexico. It's like everybody, Argentinians. We are so vested into these games. It's just really cool to see what it's going to do for the community, for Charlotte, the city, the growth, the business. I mean, just to tell you a little bit about when the Panthers went to the Super Bowl a couple of years ago, 15, 16, we were just entering the Charlotte scene as far as my paper company.
Okay.
And, it's so interesting, Javi, that our business grew. I saw bartenders and waitresses and owners making more money, and it's so interesting to see how much effect a sports team can have on a community. It brings so much more business and money where people all are flourishing and having fun at the same time. I don't know. I think it's I think it's great. I think it's phenomenal, and so cool. All right. So anything else we want to cover before maybe we dive into some food? So Charlotte FC, your background, your content, how you started. I think that's good. Ready to dive into some food?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm starving.
We'll be right back with you guys. Give us a couple seconds to get the food out.
The restaurants you love, the food you crave, and the people that make it all happen. We tell their stories on the Paper Trails podcast with Albemarle Paper Supply.